Tonight, heartache, anger and a massive clean-up in Melbourne's east after a month's rain falls in a few hours.
Australians bracing for a Melbourne Cup interest rate blow as inflation hits a 32-year high and families face a 50% surge in power prices.
Cruel home invaders target an 82-year-old grandmother and leave a family's puppy on the brink of death.
Medibank delivers bad news for 4 million Australians.
Exclusive access as police smash an illegal weapons ring operating in suburban secrecy.
And later, help for parents and pupils to manage exam stress.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Angry storm victims are lashing out after their businesses were swamped by flash flooding, leaving them facing heavy damages and a massive clean-up.
Lilydale was hit with a month's rain in just a few hours, and locals are blaming the poorly designed sky rail for leaving the water with nowhere to go.
The storm hit so hard and so quickly, Lilydale locals were underwater in minutes. Disbelief at the speed and scale of the deluge.
Forget the video, we got to go, babe.
Even by recent flood experience, this was extreme. Lilydale copped 66 millimetres, a month's worth of rain in 4 hours.
Just horrific. It was, really scary. It kind of happened really, really quickly.
Holy snapping duck bubbles.
Finding refuge from the flood waters was an impossible task. Passengers on board this bus forced to contend with fast-moving water. Shops along Main Street Lilydale took the brunt of the battering.
There's a river going through our shop. We were up to knee-deep of water in the shops.
Some of the flood victims believe the new elevated train station contributed to the extent of the damage to their businesses.
But I think it's a good part of Daniel Andrews helped by putting the railway line there and sealing all the road up and not putting a drain in.
I think the drainage has been rerouted since they've done that sky rail, because you've had floods before. I mean, this was a lake out there. There was no water going anywhere.
The Yarra Ranges Council will investigate.
If there is something there that is not right, well, our engineers will be talking to the authority.
Denise Larson's Murrelbach home was flooded. She was left feeling helpless and isolated until SES volunteers from Lilydale came to her aid.
When things like this happen, you are on your own, girl. You're on your own, girl.
A Mount Evelyn family escaped injury after this tree crashed into their home.
Jumped out the bed and went to look out the window, and all I could see was just trees.
More than a dozen retailers in Lilydale are facing massive cleanups. For some of these businesses, this is hardship upon hardship. Lefty's Barbershop had only been trading for 10 weeks since the lockdowns and is now likely to be closed for the next fortnight. Residents say they received a warning just 15 minutes before the storm hit.
There was a warning that went out, and watch and act. And I remember reading it at the time. It went from Lara to actually mention Lilydale.
Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
Australians are facing another interest rate hike on Melbourne Cup Day after new figures revealed the cost of living is accelerating. The inflation surge comes with horror predictions on power prices, leading the Albanese government to declare rising costs public enemy number one.
A tag team double act selling the budget as Peter Dutton catches the Prime Minister's eye.
Dutton's just got out of bed.
Accusing the opposition leader of being late to the party.
This is my 6th interview. He's just woken up.
Australians waking up to a budget battered by inflation, sending power prices soaring.
Inflation is public enemy number one. Inflation is the dragon we need to slay.
One that roared louder today with the budget papers barely cold. Annual inflation jumping to 7.3% in the September quarter. The biggest contributors to the jump, gas up 10.9%, furniture and fruit both 6.6%, vegetables 2.9%, petrol down 4.3%, but still the largest annual increase in 32 years, sparking predictions that a Melbourne Cup Day rate rise by the Reserve Bank is now odds on. The Commonwealth Bank now predicting rates to peak at 3.1% in December, ANZ 3.85% next May, both adding 0.25%.
If we don't take this short-term pain in the economy, then it's likely to get dragged out for even longer.
What we saw in the inflation number today was, unfortunately, the front end of some of these pressures on electricity prices.
Electricity prices, the budget says, will rise sharply by 56% over the next 2 years, gas by 40%, smashing household budgets. The Treasurer says cash support is out, but is considering market intervention, price caps or triggers to contain the hikes.
More effective than sending people cheques to deal with it in the near term.
The opposition claiming the budget will cost families heavily.
Can the Prime Minister explain how a $2,000 hit to family budgets makes Australians better off?
The Leader of the Opposition has simply made up figures.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers' shortest answer today causing the biggest stir when asked whether the government's election promise to cut electricity prices by $275 still stood.
Yep, it's in the budget.
But nope, it's not. Big price hikes are. His explanation?
I misheard it and I answered a different question.
But heard this clearly, today's inflation rate is more than double wages growth, a real wage cut.
It's probably the highest real wage cut that we've seen in recorded history, and it's a savage one.
Hitting family budgets even harder. Mark Riley, 7 News.
And we're being warned some Victorians will have to go hungry if rising power costs can't be stopped. Small businesses facing a 50% price surge say they'll be pushed to breaking point.
Chris Cameron's gin distillery has an annual electricity bill of $20,000.
To get whacked with a power increase of 56% is a huge blow to us.
And it comes with an inevitable result.
They've got no choice but to pass costs on to them, unfortunately.
The power pain will slow growth.
We've got 5 full-timers, we've just put another person on, and about 16 casuals. So we need another full-timer, and that's actually just been paused for us.
If business drops, Chris Cameron will have to rethink casual shifts, and that impacts job seekers and household budgets.
We know that people are going without food. We know that they're going without medication. We know that they're going without turning their heating on.
Compare the Market suggests asking your retailer about a repayment plan or payment extension. Your power can't be cut if you've started this conversation. Also, take up the Victorian government's $250 cash offer and compare and switch energy providers. The Victorian Council of Social Services also wants those deep in debt offered a second chance.
We need to actually wipe those bills and look at how we start again.
There is some good news for Victorians struggling with soaring bills. The state election is 4 weeks away, and both major parties have hinted that cost of living promises are on the way. For now, the Premier insists his plan to revive the SEC will lower bills.
We've laid out a really clear plan for more energy and less profit, and that means lower prices.
Daniel Andrews is saying energy prices will come down. No one believes that.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
Police have arrested an unlicensed financial advisor accused of a $9 million rip-off. Emma O'Sullivan is across this case. Emma, he's accused of stealing the money from 34 people.
Beck, Terence Rio Nagara was arrested at Melbourne Airport last night after 3 years overseas. Police allege he fled the country after clients here started asking too many questions about where their money had gone. It's alleged he defrauded victims by encouraging them to invest their superannuation in property development. The court heard the funds were splashed on sports cars, a boat and a helicopter, and detectives have no idea if there's any money left. Mr Nagara applied for bail to be with his sick mother but was refused, the magistrate agreeing with police that he poses a flight risk. The case is due to return to court in January, and police anticipate more potential victims will come forward. Beck.
Emma O'Sullivan, thank you.
An 82-year-old woman and a family puppy have been targeted in cruel home invasions. The 15-week-old Labrador was taken, then found critically injured hours later.
15-week-old Pippa was an early Christmas present for the Groves children, an innocent victim of heartless thieves.
I found her under a trailer in the shed over there, and she'd obviously been run over and kicked in the head and a few other things. She was in a bit of a bad way.
In the middle of the night, intruders broke into a shed, stealing the family's 4 dirt bikes and taking aim at the puppy.
It's just disgusting, just shows how callous they really are.
A little puppy dog is fairly cowardly and callous act.
The thieves then moved on to the neighbour's property where an 82-year-old woman lives.
She was asleep in bed and she woke up to a torchlight and a figure standing over her in her bedroom.
The intruders sped away and remain on the run. The Groves family had only just moved to the property 5 weeks ago. They say thieves have been targeting homes in the area in recent months. Police say up to 6 men in 2 cars were involved.
If they've got any kind of heart or dignity, look at, it's just enough's enough, and go and get a job and earn it for yourselves.
The Labrador puppy is at the vet's with broken legs.
She's not doing the greatest. The vet said it was devastating injuries, and 4 little kids are very heartbroken.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
Medibank Private has delivered more bad news, confirming hackers have access to the health records of all its 4 million customers.
The company's revealed the crisis has already cost it more than $30 million, and it's also taking a big hit on the stock market.
Wanting answers from Medibank today.
Last week there was just a handful of customers and now it's potentially everyone.
Andrew among 4 million Australians waiting to know if their health records are now in the hands of hackers.
I was saying that we'll be contacted if there were. If us personally would have our data breach, but they don't know yet.
What Medibank does now know, the cyber criminals who got into their system were able to access data for all of its customers. Medibank, AHM, personal details, information on diagnosis and medical procedures.
We haven't been told very much information, and I just think they're far too slow.
Another customer fearing for the most vulnerable.
So you've got people in nursing homes, people with pensioners, people elderly, and they don't have much protection. They don't have any understanding about protecting their computers.
The company's still trying to work out just how much data from how many customers has been taken.
This is probably one of the biggest tests for an Australian company in terms of their corporate reputation we've seen in a long, long while.
As Medibank shares suspended last week at $3.52, this morning plunged instantly, then drifted even lower, finishing today down 17.5%.
Medibank says its response to the cyber attack so far could cost it up to $35 million. One of the reasons is the insurance giant doesn't have cyber insurance, saying it decided not to get it, partly because of cost.
Cyber insurance used to be an optional extra, now it's a necessity.
Paul Kadak, 7 News.
The deadlocked jury in the trial of the man accused of raping Brittany Higgins has finished a 5th day of deliberations. Isabel Mullen is at the ACT Supreme Court. Isabel, the judge had some words of advice for them today.
Good evening, Rebecca. Chief Justice Lucy McCallum has reminded jurors that she is here to help. She can help them both collectively, as a group, and individually if they have any questions that they think might assist them in reaching a unanimous verdict. Because this charge involves sex here in the ACT, a majority verdict will not suffice. It must be unanimous. All 12 jurors must agree or disagree that Bruce Lerman is guilty or not guilty of raping Brittany Higgins in Parliament House in 2019. If they cannot agree, a hung jury is likely, and it will be up to the Director of Public Prosecutions to decide whether they pursue the case. Jurors will return here to the ACT Supreme Court tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for day 6 of deliberations. Rebecca.
Isabel Mullen, thank you.
More Echuca residents have lost the battle to save their homes as floodwaters finally breached their last line of defence. Jody Lee has the latest. And Jody, they bravely fought day and night but couldn't stop nature's fury.
Mike, it was always going to be a David versus Goliath battle to try and save the block of homes here on Goulburn Road from rising floodwaters. Residents had almost won the war before the incredible weight of that water finally overpowered their sandbag levee. The levee broke, and along with it, the hearts of Goulburn Road residents.
It was just nature doing what it does best.
The block on the outskirts of Echuca was never going to be saved by the dirt levee, so owners painstakingly built their own from sandbags. But at midnight, after almost 2 weeks of fighting, the war against the water was lost.
We weren't going to give up, and she's just glad everyone's safe, so that's the main thing.
The effort from friends, family and complete strangers a testament to the Echuca Moama spirit.
The hardest thing with these type of floods is that this water's going to be here for weeks, if not months, and the clean-up is just going to be a very, very long time.
Residents fought so hard to defend these homes because they don't have flood insurance. If these properties aren't salvageable, these owners will be left with nothing. Can I ask you, where will you go now?
Oh, I've had plenty of offers. Yes, I'll share myself around.
More than 32,000 Victorians like Robin have now applied for financial assistance. The state government stepped in with enough caravans and demountables to house 350 families. But the Premier is yet to visit the flood-ravaged border town. His New South Wales counterpart did today.
You're everywhere. How are you, Matt?
In Echuca, Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Thousands of young Victorians are swinging into exam mode, starting their VCE finals after gruelling years of COVID chaos. The exams got underway this morning as new research revealed the effects of the lockdowns are still taking a toll on our children.
No masks or social distancing required today for more than 40,000 students doing their English exams. Still, a year of disruption with illness, staff shortages and readjustment.
After COVID, it took a period to get back into normal learning, I guess.
It comes after figures reveal high school students missed 7 million days of school in the past year. That's 6 weeks for each child. Some approved absences, but many because of illness, mental health, family holidays in term and truancy.
It's concerning, but to be expected given the impacts of COVID.
What we need to do is engage with the family as a whole unit and see what's going on. Oh, well done!
Today, the feeling after 3 gruelling hours.
Congratulations! Thank you. Oh my God, I feel so relieved. Such a huge relief. It's amazing to have it completed.
I was pretty happy with how it went. I think I smashed it.
Still, stress shows. How many exams left?
Like 4. No, 5. Yes, 5, yes. I'm doing math. Clearly, I can't count how many exams I have, so that's not looking great.
The last VCE exam is on November the 16th. Then the celebrations begin.
Just looking forward to getting this over and done with and moving on and enjoying the few months off.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
And still to come tonight, help for parents and pupils to manage exam stress. That's later on 7 News.
And Tim Watson is here with a look ahead to sport. Tim, a premiership star, is set for surgery.
Yes, Beck, your Geelong hero is facing a delayed start to the new season. Details coming up. Also, exclusive access inside the Blues headquarters as the CEO delivers a strong message to the players. A cricket legend takes aim at the Aussies World Cup campaign despite a record-breaking knock for Marcus Stoinis. The dangers of being courtside at the NBA as a Victorian teenager takes on the big boys, and controversy today ahead of the big derby day at Saturday, Flemington. More on that soon.
OK, thanks, Tim. The law has come down hard on a Melbourne nurse for working while she was COVID positive as the virus spread through our aged care homes. Details next on 7 News.
Plus, no rap on the knuckle as Kanye cops a $1 billion hit.
A vaping reality check for teens taking up the habit.
And the weight loss pill that could be on sale in Australia within months.
A Melbourne nurse has been fined $25,000 for working in aged care while sick with COVID. The court was told she filled shifts at a Hyatt nursing home even after she tested positive.
Karnaljit Brah's lawyer called her decision to work while sick with coronavirus a few days of madness.
Are you really remorseful? Was that correct?
It was winter 2020. Multiple Victorian aged care homes were battling COVID-19. The outbreak at St Basil's in Fawkner was well underway. The registered nurse revealed to her GP she was feeling a little feverish. The doctor told her not to attend her casual shift that night at the Menorock Rosehill home in Hyatt. She ignored that advice. Ms Brah worked at Menorock July 26 and 27 before testing positive for COVID the next day. On August 1, a resident tested positive. WorkSafe prosecutors didn't allege the nurse spread the infection. She returned to work a third time when she should have been isolating. The 37-year-old pleaded guilty to failing to take reasonable care for health and safety. The charge doesn't carry a jail term. Instead, she was fined $25,000.
Ms Bra worked as a nurse for little over a year before she was suspended. Her lawyer told the court she wants to return to nursing. She'd have to take her case to VCAT to have her registration restored. Is there anything you'd like to say to the families of those elderly residents? The magistrate said her disregard for residents was deceitful. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
New research has found significant traces of nicotine in over-the-counter vape pens often sold to school children. Wollongong University has tested the top 3 most common vape brands which claim to be nicotine-free, also discovering traces of other chemicals. It's prompting calls for governments to clamp down on vaping.
Britain's transition of power is complete after Rishi Sunak met King Charles at Buckingham Palace. The UK's third Prime Minister in 7 weeks takes the reins with his country in the midst of an economic crisis.
The aftermath of COVID still lingers. Putin's war in Ukraine has destabilised energy markets and supply chains the world over.
Outgoing PM Liz Truss is vowing to stay on the backbench.
Adidas has severed ties with singer Kanye West over his recent anti-Semitic outburst. The move is set to cost the sportswear giant hundreds of millions of dollars.
He's the rapper and fashion designer who reckoned Adidas would never leave him.
The thing about it, me and Adidas, is like, I could literally say anti-Semitic and they can't drop me.
Yes, they can. Kanye West, Ye as he's now known, hip-hop genius, 160 million records sold, 24 Grammys, and a lightning rod for controversy. A tweet saying he'd go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, one in a recent string of anti-Semitic remarks as he presses a conspiracy theory over Jewish control. From Kim Kardashian, hate speech is never okay or excusable, now backing her ex-husband's abrupt fall from grace.
0 to 10, this is 11. It's as extreme as it gets.
Today, Gap and Foot Locker began pulling Kanye's Yeezy products from stores as the star's big backer called time on their near-decade-long partnership. Adidas does not tolerate anti-Semitism. Ye's comments unacceptable, hateful and dangerous. The company expects cutting ties with Kanye West will cost it $385 million this year alone. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
A new weight loss drug could soon hit pharmacies. Mounjaro is currently being trialled overseas, but could be available as early as next year.
This particular clinical trial looked at several thousand people over 72 weeks. And at the end of the 72 weeks, the average weight loss was 22%.
The drug is pending approval from the Therapeutic Goods Administration.
Police are cracking down on a deadly trade. Up next on 7 News, inside the operation to bust underground gun factories hidden in the suburbs.
Police! Also ahead, a shock as a suspect hands himself into police over a sex attack in Melbourne's southwest.
And a warning for taxi and rideshare drivers as Flemington braces for a wet carnival.
A 15-year-old boy has handed himself into police over an alleged sexual assault on a bus at Hoppers Crossing in September. The teenager is accused of sexually assaulting a 15-year-old girl who was sitting next to him. He was accompanied by a family member when he surrendered to police.
A newly formed elite police unit has dealt a blow to organised crime, cracking down on gun factories hidden in the suburbs. The Viper Task Force was formed in July and has already made hundreds of arrests. Today, our cameras were there as they swooped on a suspected weapons manufacturer.
The sound no criminal wants to hear.
Police!
The Viper Task Force smashing gangs, bikies and organised crime, targeting some of the state's most dangerous criminals.
Let there be no mistake, if they're causing harm to our communities, Viper's coming for them.
Not for 11. Yeah, we're on a patrol.
For the first time since it was launched, an exclusive inside look. In a blitz on gang crime, police have seized guns, drugs and nearly $700,000.
The organised crime syndicates that we're seeing in the outlaw motorcycle groups that we're dealing with are ruthless and relentless. We've got specialists in intelligence, we've got special tactical people.
Today, members scooped up a man accused of making guns.
We have identified a number of firearm parts that he has manufactured. We've seized those parts.
Police say weapons are being sold on the dark web to those linked with bikies and crime gangs.
We're targeting the most high-risk people in our communities, people that we believe cause significant harm to our communities.
Viper Task Force has only been in operation for 3 months, but it's already taken a huge toll on crime gangs. Since July, Victoria Police has seized weapons, raided more than 100 properties and laid nearly 300 charges. A message to those involved in organised crime.
We may not get you today, we may not get you tomorrow, but we are coming after you.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Russia has notified the United States it's conducting nuclear exercises from today. The Pentagon has stressed the drills are routine, but President Joe Biden didn't go that far, saying any use of a tactical nuclear weapon would be an incredibly serious mistake by Russia. Vladimir Putin today chaired a meeting to speed up weapon deliveries to his troops.
A Russian court has rejected an appeal from American basketball star Brittany Griner against her 9-year sentence. The dual Olympic gold medalist had pleaded guilty to smuggling vape cartridges with cannabis oil in them into Moscow.
A group of tourists has been rescued after spending almost 30 hours stranded underground in the Grand Canyon. A family of 4 and another couple were trapped 21 stories below the surface after an elevator failed. The group was eventually rescued by firefighters. No one was injured.
Racegoers are in for a wet week with rain expected to drench Flemington during the spring carnival. They're anticipating 300,000 punters, all of them being urged to pack a coat.
They come for the fashion. But umbrellas may be the must-have accessory for Derby Day.
Anyone coming to Flemington needs to factor that into their planning.
Rain is forecast for Flemington on Saturday, and the bad weather is forecast to stick around for Cup Day 2.
Although there might be some precipitation, it's looking quite minor, so hopefully that'll be the case.
Organisers today unveiled concept they call The Park, a birdcage for general admission. 12,000 staff are already trying to guard against the elements. Police will be prepared for the 85,000 people expected to be at Flemington on Saturday.
We'll be supported by our water police on the Maribyrnong River. We'll have our public order response team, mounted branch, highway patrol and transit safety division, all supporting our uniformed members.
The VRC will also be cracking down on taxi and Uber price gouging. It's asking passengers to report it to a government representative on site.
They will be out here in force looking at taxis and limos. We encourage people to use public transport, the best and easiest way to get to Flemington.
And after 3 years, Fashions on the Field is back.
Being able to dress up after so long not being able to do it, it feels like such an intrinsic part of Australia, and it's just great to be back.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
There could be relief for drivers in Melbourne's west. Next, the promise to ditch boom gates on the Werribee line.
Also, exam help for parents and pupils straight from a student with a perfect score.
The mum's accused of running a massive drug operation across Melbourne's southeast.
And later, Jane Bunny is live with the stars in South Yarra, looking ahead to 2023. Two mothers are among 4 people accused of running a massive drug dealing racket across Melbourne's southeast. Sophia Politis and Lara Domajenko have faced court charged with trafficking meth and heroin. They were arrested during police raids in June. When officers searched a St Kilda apartment building at that time, they found a rocket launcher, a bomb and nearly $60,000 in cash. One of their co-accused is facing charges over the weapons.
Werribee locals are being promised a train line with no level crossings if the Andrews government is re-elected. The plan would remove crossings at Spotswood, Newport and Altona by 2030, while Yarraville and Newport crossings will be closed entirely. Currently, boom gates in the area are down for a total of almost an hour during the morning peak.
Well, today's rise in inflation has had an impact on the markets.
Here's Network Finance editor Gemma Acton.
Thanks, Beck and Mike. Well, early enthusiasm faded after today's higher than expected inflation print, but the ASX 200 still managed to eke out a positive finish, up 12 points to 6,811. Medibank shares took the wooden spoon, down more than 18%. The Aussie dollar has pushed off last week's lows to claw its way back to 64 US cents, while oil prices are just clutching on above 90 US dollars. And can you change your spending habits to lessen the bite from inflation? Well, not much. Inflation for discretionary extras rose by around 5% this past year, but for everyday essentials like food, petrol, energy and healthcare, by much more, up 8%. Beck and Mike.
Thanks, Gemma. As tens of thousands of Year 12 students are immersed in the stress of exams, one of Victoria's smartest young men has some last-minute advice.
The state champion says there are a few basic tips when it comes to surviving the pressure.
Rion Al graduated as dux of his school, topping the Year 12 honour roll after achieving a perfect 99.95 score. Now he's tutoring final year students and helping them navigate the exams.
It's been operating for 2 years since I graduated, and since then we've helped probably about 350 students across the board. 100 last year, 250 this year. I think the really key thing you're going to need...
Rion Al's business, 50 Coach, teaches students how to memorise, plan, write to time and beat the examiner.
You need to be getting a majority of questions right, a majority of the time. But you definitely don't need to be aiming for absolute perfection in one subject at the cost of all the others.
Rion still feels the exam pain. He's studying medicine and recommends sufficient sleep before the big day, as well as a healthy diet, exercise and remaining calm and centred.
Ask your teachers any last minute questions you've got. Ask your tutors any last minute questions you've got. They're all there to help you and they're going to want to help you.
The gun student says it's not too late to memorise last-minute facts and quotes and to relax, knowing 13 years of hard work will pay off. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Bouquets of red poppies will soon take over Melbourne, with RSL Victoria launching its annual appeal today. Victorians are being urged to show their support for veterans and their families by buying and wearing a red poppy or volunteering their time. Pins can be picked up at local RSL clubs as well as Woolworths and Officeworks. The appeal is hoping to raise $3 million this year.
Well, Tim Watson's back with Sport Now. Tim, a cricket legend has blasted the Aussies.
Becky hasn't held back, calling for a big-name scalp. That's despite a record-breaking knock as the Aussies arrive in Melbourne with their World Cup campaign on a fine line. Also, Carlton's boss tells the players to butt out while showing off the Blues' new digs. Why Tom Hawkins is an unlikely starter for the Premiers in their season opener, and the fan who turned heads courtside while the boy from Bendigo shines in the NBA. Welcome back. Aussie cricket great Mark Waugh is calling for Pat Cummins to be dropped for Australia's must-win T20 World Cup clash against England. The Aussies have just touched down in Melbourne with their title defence still on shaky ground.
Their World Cup defence still intact, but a long way to go.
It was a win for Australia, but I'd have to say it was a pretty ordinary performance. We look so far off the pace, it's not funny.
Former selector Mark Waugh laying bare the Aussie T20 struggles and calling for a big-name scalp.
I'd bring Cameron Green in, and I'd bring him in for Pat Cummins, and I'd let Cameron Green open the batting. Aaron Finch's innings was torturous, it really was. I don't think he can open the innings in the next game. If he's going to play, I don't think he opens. He bats somewhere down the order.
Aussie legend Alan Border has called for Finch to be dropped for Steve Smith. A visibly frustrated Aussie captain scratched an unbeaten 31 from 42 deliveries. Oh my God!
Obviously my innings was unusual, it was poor. I just couldn't hit the ball.
Marcus Stoinis papered over the Aussie cracks in a 7-wicket win over Sri Lanka.
Stoinis with power, strength and timing.
The fired-up all-rounder blasted 6 sixes in a 17-ball half-century.
Continues to show the emotion and what it means.
The intention was to just go put an impact on the game, try and get a spark going.
Glenn Maxwell copped a brutal blow to the neck, but is expected to be fit to take on England.
I think the selectors have been very, very conservative, I think, for the last 6 months. It's time to grow some kahunas, I reckon.
Lose against England on Friday and the Aussies will need a minor miracle to make the semi-finals. That's despite having games against Ireland and Afghanistan still to come.
The backs are still against the wall, I think.
Australia's miracle could come early.
Bowled him! Oh, yes!
England in danger of a major upset against Ireland. 5 for 93, needing 65 off the final 6 overs for victory at the G. Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
AFL club bosses are keeping a close eye on the amount of power players have. Chief Football Reporter Tom Brown has the details. And Tom, it comes in the wake of other recent sporting dramas.
Team Netball lost a $15 million sponsorship. Cricket, Alinta Energy didn't renew up to a $40 million deal. AFL clubs now looking to proactively avoid any type of similar situation. Now, Sydney, they've got the lucrative Qatar deal. Boss Tom Harley explaining yesterday players are mature enough to understand that for sports to survive and thrive, they do need commercial partnerships. The Blues are discussing the issue at a scheduled board meeting tonight.
Welcome to Carlton, Tom.
Carlton say they arguably have the most advanced facility in Australian sport. This is where the Blues make the big decisions.
This sits 20 people, which would have been a tight fit for the old board.
Player power on the agenda at tonight's board meeting.
Woke sponsorship, I suppose. It's so new. It's something we need to be very wary of.
Cook explaining ultimately sponsorship is the club's decision.
I have no issue in discussing sponsorship with players, but I don't necessarily think it's their decision. We have to also make sure that we have a pretty good business model.
Carlton's priority re-signing is Tom De Koning.
Our team have been talking to the De Konings, family and for the last month or two.
Admitting they've got a tight salary cap.
With Mackay and Curnow locked in, how much salary space have you got left?
Yeah, not a lot.
The women's change rooms exactly mirror the men's. Both sides share the same gym, pool and indoor oval.
It has the wow factor. It's unbelievable.
We're very privileged to have these facilities and also to have our home ground as the home of the AFLW.
And Xavier Campbell's not bitter about his exit from Essendon, the latest AFL figure kicking huge goals off the field. Partnering with Hollywood actor Travis Frimmel, their beer Traveller has been stocked in almost 1,000 Liquorlands.
Could you get back involved in football?
For me, I love football. I love the Essendon Football Club. I love my time there. I'm pretty happy to take a step back. We'll do some travel.
Campbell also planning to move to France for 12 months. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Geelong Premiership forward Tom Hawkins is set to have a delayed start to next season, just days after announcing a one-year extension. The 34-year-old will have surgery on a lingering foot injury he carried through the final series. The club won't give a timeline on a return to pre-season training until after he's had that surgery. A botched barrier draw has caused controversy ahead of Saturday's Group 1 Empire Rose Stakes at Flemington. One less ball in the barrel caused mayhem for trainer Wayne Hawkes and his runner Yearning.
Went to the barrel, the steward, barrel was empty. Empty barrel. Nothing at home. So they just said, number 14 hasn't been drawn out, so we'll give you 14. So, of course, my phone has gone ballistic.
It forced a full redraw to take place later this afternoon. Yearning drew barrier 15. One NBA spectator got a harsh lesson. Now, if you're going to accept courtside seats, make sure you don't turn your back on the play. After settling down with a sore head, she was in a position to see Bendigo's Dyson Daniels cause havoc on one of the best players in the league.
A lot of dribbling. The cutter, Daniels lays it in. Dyson Daniels.
In just his second game, the teenager finished with 11 points, 3 steals and a block in the Pelicans' win over Dallas, looking every bit a top 10 pick.
Isn't he what?
Thanks, Tim. Very much, Tim. Well, Channel 7 is looking ahead to 2023 with a host of stars in South Yarra this evening.
Jane Bunner's there, and Jane, you've got more than the weather tonight.
I do indeed, Mike and Becca. I'm back live with Sonia Kruger and the weather forecast next.
Hello, tonight on the latest from 7 News, an Aussie-born gay rights campaigner has a brush with police in Qatar. Is the World Cup host as welcoming as it said it would be? Kanye West's big mouth costs him big time, no longer a billionaire. And new life thanks to a life-saving drug, the very sweet ending to a story that we've followed closely. We're live tonight, the latest, 10:45.
On 7 News, Melbourne Airport's flight path shake-up.
It's due to be replaced.
The suburbs set for noisier nights, while others will sleep in peace. A 7 News special report, what it means for travel and why it can't be avoided. 7 News at 6.
Welcome back to the Jam Factory. I'm with Sonia Kruger. Now, Sonia, it's a big year for you next year. Big Brother is filming soon.
It is. In fact, we start filming it this week, and we've got a lot of hot, sexy singles who are going into the house. It's Big Brother's House of Love this year, so it should be very interesting.
All right, looking forward to that. And after that, I presume it's over to The Voice for you?
Exactly, yes. The Voice will be filming again, and we have a brand new superstar coach joining. I can't tell you who it is, Jane, because I don't know who it is. And the reason I don't know is they won't tell me anything because I cannot be trusted with that information.
So you can't just give me a little secret now?
No, I can't. They know I leak like a sieve, so there's no point telling me
All right,
anything.
I think I'm getting nothing out of her. Now, tell me, do you often get to come to Melbourne? It's really nice to see you here.
You know what? It's so good to be here. I'm so happy to be back. I get to come usually for a couple of days at a time. We're here for the Channel 7's big upfronts night tonight. So it's lovely. I mean, even the sun came out this afternoon, which was... Thank you, Melbourne. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sonia. Now, I'm going to say, well, it certainly was a gloomy start to the day in Melbourne. The humidity's high, the winds are light, and they combine to make it misty under that cloud. The temperature only ranged from 15 this morning to 20 late this afternoon. There are drizzly showers passing through, only adding up to a millimetre or two. Now, the thicker clouds meant the storms, they were less likely, but they did come close to developing over northern and northeastern suburbs with some heavier downbursts. There's one coming into the city now. For the south, though, it's just a bit of drizzle. There is a complex low to our south that's pushing rain up across Gippsland. Lighter patchy rain comes into much of the rest of the state, but it does add up on the ranges. Thunderstorms are fired up in far east Gippsland, and there's one on the central and the eastern ranges now. With the rain over Gippsland, that's the only area remaining on flood watch. The rest are in the clear unless there's a flood warning current. The major warnings are shown in red there, the Snowy, including Orbost, and the Murray for Echuca and Barham, and that heads to Swan Hill and further downstream in the coming weeks. The complex low has 2 centres over Bass Strait affecting Gippsland. Now, the lows will move over Tasmania tomorrow and they'll linger there on Friday. Now, that will have a big impact on our air. Currently, it is humid from the Pacific Ocean. It's not overly warm, but it certainly makes you sweat. By Friday, we'll be in a southern ocean air. That means no more humidity. Instead, I'd be expecting a rather chilly end to the week. Around the nation tomorrow is sunny in Brisbane and Sydney before the risk of late storms. Showers and the risk of a storm in Canberra. Steady rain in Hobart, showery in Adelaide. It is dry in Perth. To Victoria, storms are only a risk in the far east and about the eastern ranges, but it's still wet in the south with widespread showers. Less of them north of the divide, tending all dry in the northwest corner. Westerly winds are picking up, so the humidity eases. Closer in, it is a wet Thursday, lots of showers streaming through. Now, most frequent in eastern suburbs, spreading to the west in the afternoon and tending to persistent rain in those outer eastern suburbs. The city is heading for 18. It's less humid. Instead, we have a cool and breezy wind, so there's lots of showers passing through. To the 8-day outlook, we'll really feel the difference in the air on Friday. Yes, that top is just 15. There's lots of showers passing through. Now, it recovers in time for Derby Day Saturday. Dry for much of the time, back up to 18. Nice on Sunday morning, late rain. That eases on Monday, but you can see Cup Day and Oaks Day there and the Wednesday in between. Yes, tops of just 15 degrees, and I'd expect lots of showers to be passing through. There's even snow up on the hills. So it is 18 for tomorrow, breezy with lots of showers passing through. But tonight, all about celebrating what should be an amazing year in 2023.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Jane. And that is 7 News for this Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us.
For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.